2002 BMW K1200RS. We're going to do a clutch and spline service on it, and that's it. After taking the plastic off, we discovered this bike was pretty moldy. It's a pretty common issue. Bikes sit in a damp area, not a lot of heat. I don't like to work on them unless they've been cleaned up a little bit. So Noah took it over, gave it a good bath, and then we put it back on the stand. It says in the manual you need to remove the air box and the fuel injection. You really don't need to take the fuel injection off. What you do need to do though is take that air box off so you can get to the front engine mount on the left side. Hold that nut. While we were pulling off the final drive, we realized that we had a seal leak on the final drive. So we ordered the seal for that also, and that'll be in part 2 of this video. Took the jam nut and the bolt loose from the back side of the swing arm, so we pull the final drive out, put a little heat on that nut that we're on right there, and just broke it loose. Put a little heat on it, that's a good idea. We're ready to lift the rear of the frame up here. Make sure you have the brake lines loosened from their fasteners. You don't need to take them loose from the ABS box. Take the 2 little Allen screws at the front of the battery box. The one from the left foot peg needs to come out also, and you need to have the starter wire loose in some manner. I was taking the exhaust off, and I'm tracing down the O2 sensor wire, and it goes back up under the seat, clipping all the ties off of that so we can slip that out. When we get that out of our way, we'll probably put our jack underneath the engine and get ready for that. We've also got to take the swing arm out at this point, get it out of our way, and there's also a cross member for the frame there. We'll go ahead and lift the back of the bike up, and then we'll take that out. When I lift that up, take that cross member out, I just leave the gear selector on that, but I mark it with a Sharpie under there, make sure I get it right back where the customer had it before. So we'll get all this out of the way, and then you'll see us do the next step. Notice pulling the center stand off here while I take off the clutch slave cylinder, 3 bolts to hold that on. I'll leave that sensor on the back of the transmission on there. Just unplug the lead, pull it back down out of the way. When you pull that bolt that holds the transmission to the frame there, you don't want to take those 4 little bolts loose. Those help align everything up. Just leave them alone, and everything will go back together good for you here. Best thing to make sure is you do have a good manual with you when you do this. There's a lot of little items you need, torque values and so forth. Make sure you lube everything on the splines like it says to when you put it back together. That's real critical on a BMW. And there's the problem. You'll see we left the starter hanging in there. We did take the bolts loose, but we left it hanging there. It's a little easier to get out after the transmission's out, and then you can just slip it out and it won't foul when you go to put the transmission back in. Pulling the clutch out here, we've already marked the components that they all line back up. We'll also put a permanent mark on those so we don't lose it when we clean things up. We pull this clutch out, you take that nut off right there. You need to replace that nut and that compression ring every time you do this. We change the rear seal and the little O-ring, and then we put it back together. There I just used the clutch rod and an 11mm socket to line it up. If you don't have the tool, that'll work fine. I just want to show you can do that. And the next step, we're just popping it back together. Thanks for watching.